Kiss, the stale side salad of rock and roll. A band so mediocre that they should rightfully receive at least half the hate that Nickelback gets, yet somehow they don't. Instead, they've had a fantastic career spanning 5 decades and have sold tens of millions of records worldwide. Their music is largely forgettable, their technical proficiency is nothing special, and yet they became one of the most successful rock acts in history. Let's find out how this happens. Kiss is very openly a gimmick band, and they've never pretended otherwise. From day one, they understood that in the crowded rock landscape of the 1970s, being memorable was more important than being good. The iconic face paint and costumes weren't just stage makeup, they were personas. Each member inhabited a comic book character, transforming four ordinary guys from New York into larger than life superheroes or villains, depending on your perspective. This wasn't just branding, it was mythology building at a scale rock music had rarely seen. Their outfits were equally absurd and brilliant: platform boots that added 7 inches of height, leather and studs, capes, and armor. They looked less like a rock band and more like extras from a science fiction B movie, and that was precisely the point. Kiss focused on putting on a show instead of merely playing a concert. Pyrotechnics, smoke machines, levitating drum kits, and guitars that shot rockets became standard fare. And in an era before music videos and social media, that kind of spectacle was revolutionary. These were carefully choreographed moments designed to create lasting memories. In the mid 1970s, when arena rock was just beginning to take shape, Kiss essentially wrote the playbook. They understood that fans weren't just paying for music, they were paying for an experience they couldn't get at home with a turntable. The impact on rock and metal cannot be overstated. Rock and metal are genres that shine in live performance settings. The energy, the volume, the communal experience of thousands of people united in headbanging chaos. Kiss didn't invent the rock concert, but they transformed it into theater. Kiss proved that spectacle and substance could coexist, even if Kiss leaned heavily toward the former. Kiss's music is aggressively simple. Songs like Rock and Roll All Night, Detroit Rock City, and I Love It Loud were built on simple hooks, chantable choruses, and driving energy, perfect for stadium sing-alongs. These weren't songs you had to study or appreciate with repeated listens. You heard them once and you could shout along by the second chorus. They were designed for maximum accessibility, not musical innovation. Kiss also had zero shame about chasing trends. When disco exploded in the late 70s, they released I Was Made for Lovin' You, complete with a four-on-the-floor drum beat and synthesizers. It was blatantly designed to be played in discos and on radio stations that wouldn't normally touch hard rock. The rock purists howled, but the song became one of their biggest hits. Gene Simmons wagged his tongue all the way to the bank. Their music wasn't artistically impressive, but it was fun, loud, and easy to love. And in the world of pop culture, easy to love often beats technically impressive. Bands have been boosting their revenues by selling t-shirts at concerts for ages, but Kiss was the first band to turn that business opportunity up to 11. Action figures, comic books, lunchboxes, pinball machines, board games, makeup kits, even a Kiss coffin for die-hard fans who wanted to rock and roll all night in the afterlife. If it could have a logo slapped on it, Kiss sold it. By the late 70s, they were reportedly the most merchandised band in history. They understood something most artists didn't. Fans don't just want to listen to your music, they want to own a piece of you. Kiss gave them that opportunity at every price point, from a $5 poster to a $200 leather jacket. This merchandising empire did more than generate revenue, it kept Kiss in the public consciousness even when their albums weren't topping the charts. It turned the band into a brand. And a kid wearing a Kiss t-shirt to school was free advertising. A Kiss lunchbox in the cafeteria was brand reinforcement. They turned their own fans into walking billboards. Gene Simmons, the bassist and demon-tongued frontman, was a marketing genius. He understood that Kiss could be more than just a band. Simmons and Paul Stanley treated Kiss like a business from day one. They controlled their image ruthlessly, licensed their brand strategically, and understood that mystery and mystique were worth more than authenticity, from a monetary perspective at least. For years, the band members refused to be photographed without makeup. When they finally unmasked in 1983, it was a calculated media event that brought in rave ratings for MTV. Even when their popularity dipped in the 1980s and early 90s, they didn't fade away, they simply reinvented themselves. The 1996 reunion tour with the original lineup and makeup was a masterclass in nostalgia marketing, and they grossed over $140 million. Kiss also positioned themselves as icons of American pop culture, not just rock stars. They appeared on sitcoms, game shows, and talk shows. They became a pop culture reference point, shorthand for excess and spectacle. Even people who couldn't name a single Kiss song knew who they were, and perhaps more importantly, what they looked like. So, how did Kiss get so big? Not through musical virtuosity or poetic lyrics or groundbreaking innovation. They got big through clever branding, shameless self promotion, and an almost pathological understanding of what sells. They made good business decisions at every turn, investing in spectacle when others focused on substance, merchandising relentlessly when others saw it as selling out, and never, ever letting integrity get in the way of profit. They executed their gimmicks flawlessly, committing to the bit with a sincerity that made even the absurd seem authentic. In the end, Kiss proved that in the entertainment industry, being great is optional, but being unforgettable is essential. They weren't the best musicians or songwriters, but they were the best at being Kiss. And in a world where attention is currency, that was more than enough. They're still the stale side salad of rock and roll, but they're the side salad that somehow got itself on the cover of the menu, spawned a franchise, and made millions. And you have to respect the hustle, even if you can't stand the taste.